Hello everybody and welcome to another UBSend Chatbot Deep Dive series. If you're new to the series, this is essentially a live stream series where we're going to be discussing and talking through different elements of the UBSend Chatbot platform. So for this particular episode, we're actually going to be looking at small talk and a few other minor elements across the platform. So it's not going to be diving into any massive feature in a huge amount of depth. Instead, it's just going to be kind of looking around the different parts of the platform, seeing what different things are, and things that maybe are somewhat minor but still impactful and don't necessarily warrant an entire episode by themselves. And of course, as you will all know, you're watching this on YouTube, so the person talking to you from your computer screen has to say this. I feel like it's an unwritten law of YouTube, but do make sure that you do subscribe to the channel. We release new chatbot content all the time, either through a live stream or through just a regular upload, and it's a really great way to kind of stay up to date in the industry. You don't want to be missing out on it. Okay, perfect. Let me just have another quick drink as well before we begin. It's important to always have a few sips of water. Now, if you are new to the UBSend Chatbot Deep Dive series, as mentioned, we normally just talk through a specific different kind of use case or a different platform feature. And today we're kind of looking at small talk. I'm currently just in the demo side of the platform, so this is just kind of basically a demo client that I kind of play around with and have a few tests. So, you know, it's not exactly a fully fleshed out chatbot, but that in a way makes it great for me to kind of go through and show off the odd different bits, because a little bit of it, because it's my little own demo account where I test new features and have a play around with some different ideas. There's always a few things that are kind of work in progress, which you can sometimes kind of dip into. Okay, so today we are talking about small talk. So over here on the left side of the navigation here, we've got knowledge, and then we have small talk. What is small talk? Small talk is essentially the way that your chatbot responds to very basic questions. So the typical things that, you know, when chatbots first came out and kind of first hit the mainstream, kind of maybe about a little bit longer than 5 years ago, the first thing that you'd always say to a chatbot is, how are you? So let's just jump over and kind of give you a live demonstration of some small talk. So this is the kind of UBot, this is the chatbot that we have on our website. Let's just press the wrong buttons there. Let's just reset this. So this chatbot is live on our website. You feel free to go and have a little conversation with it after if you want to. Just head over to ubsend.com. But essentially, as you can see, the UBSend's chatbot, we can either talk to the chatbot, we can just say I'm here to test the chatbot, we can do whatever, or we can engage in small talk. So I can kind of go along the lines of something, say, I just also realised with my little streaming software at the moment, my face is going to be in the way of what I'm saying. So let me just quickly move my face out of the way into the other corner. The joys of streaming is that your face always ends up in the complete opposite, covering up whatever you're trying to talk about. But yep, so small talk pretty much essentially is just something like, how are you? Question mark. And then the chatbot's going to be able to spend a couple times trying to have a little think about it. With my internet, you know, it's always going to be a little bit of an issue there. And then the chatbot's going to be able to respond, and it's going to say, my day is going fine, thank you, just working away. So that's essentially small talk. It is how your chatbot can respond to minor questions that are asked just by any kind of chatbot user. So within the UBSend platform, small talk comes kind of pre-built. So you have a massive range of small talk responses. I believe, as you can see, we've got over 190, or just about 190 different small talk responses that cover pretty much anything someone would ask your chatbot to do with small talk, such as how are you having a good day, what's your name, can we be friends, all of these kind of regular small talk responses. Within UBSend, we understand some people like small talk on, some people don't like small talk on, and some people would prefer to customize the small talk. So we're going to discuss and go through all the different ways that you can do such a thing. Within the settings here at the top, this is basically where we enable or disable small talk. So a couple benefits, and why would you want to say keep small talk enabled, and why would you want to keep it disabled? Well, let's run through. If you want to keep small talk enabled, this is because you say your user base might be answering common questions such as how are you? You kind of want your chatbot to be able to have a little bit of that initial, in England, like, you know, we can kind of call it banter or something like that, a little bit of back and forth with the user so that they can kind of have a little bit of a conversation, break down any barriers in a non-formal, say, typical business sense. The user actually isn't typically progressing towards your end goal, such as, say, reducing the amount of inquiries. They're just engaging to your chatbot. So that might be another reason why you actually want to leave small talk on, is just to kind of have that initial conversation. A reason why you might want to turn small talk off is if, say, for example, you don't actually, is whenever a user engages with your chatbot, you want it to be hyper-focused conversations that are only about, say, order status, different kind of products that they have, lead nurturing, lead generation. So then you might actually say, okay, I want to turn small talk off because I want to have these kind of hyper-focused conversations here. And that's where we're going to be able to kind of, you switch off small talk so that your chatbot is incredibly focused just on the one task that it was set out to solve, and in the situation and the occasion where kind of just general engagement by people just kind of chatting away to your chatbot isn't necessarily the most important thing for your chatbot's use case or for your chatbot or for your own personal brand. Now, I will also mention as well, another reason why you might want to leave small talk on is for the brand building aspect. If you say have a little bit more of a quirky B2C brand, I'm trying to think of a few examples off my head. There's Innocent Drinks, which is kind of a fruit and smoothie brand in the UK. We actually did a chatbot challenge on them. It's over in the chat, within our YouTube playlists. It's basically a challenge where we try and make a chatbot for them in under 5 minutes, brand it and everything. It's quite a nice and fun little challenge. Quite an old version of Ubisend as well. So if you want to see what the platform looked like over a year ago, I believe it was now, maybe a little bit less, head over and have a little look. It's a very old version of the platform. It's come on a long way since then, but it's at the same time, the core premise is still there. But yeah, so small talk's a great way to kind of improve your chat and to kind of give your chatbot a little bit more brand and to kind of give your brand a boost through amusing and engaging chatbot conversations. But anyway, so that's kind of a few reasons of why you might want to leave small talk on or why you might want to turn it off. If you do want to turn it off, as you can see, I can just basically untick this. So really simple and basically doesn't change anything. But now let's have a little think about what I was mentioning, which is this kind of brand building opportunities and also just customizing the small talk responses. You might be looking to say build your brand either in a quirky B2C way, which is what I was just discussing, or maybe in a much more formal way, because if you recall from the question that I asked the chatbot, this is one of the default small talk, falling over my words there, happens every single time I do these live streams. But no, this is one of the default small talk responses. So this is, the chatbot just says, my day is going fine, thank you, just working away. If you say in a particularly, you might have, say, a brand which is, say, such as a law firm or something which is dealing with normally deeply personal or emotional issues, and you can go through and update the small talk to kind of give it a bit more of a professional, a bit more of a laser-focused feel towards your brand. So this is all about just basically going in, either having someone from your marketing department or maybe like an agency if you have an agency that deals with your copywriting, or of course as well if you are one of our Ubisend partners and you're managing chatbots for your clients. This is where you're going to be able to go inside the small talk and customize your chatbot's default responses for each of your different clients, and or obviously as well just for your own brand. It kind of depends whether you are using Ubisend internally for your own business or whether you are actually using it to kind of be a chatbot reseller and sell chatbots to a range of different clients. But let's kind of have a little look in and just kind of go through and customize a few different small talk options. So I think what we'll do is we'll nip in and we'll kind of, shall we just pick one at random? We'll just probably pick one at random here. So as you can see, the name on the left is just kind of basically a little internal name. The name on the right is a little bit of an example trigger, so what somebody might say to kind of start the conversation. Here's quite a nice one, which is when is your birthday? So let's head in and manage these responses. And of course, we don't have access to that page because this is my demo account. So there we are. Essentially, managing the chatbot responses, I completely forgot that I didn't have access to this on this account here. Managing chatbot responses, it works for the FAQs, works pretty much in the exact same way as it will do within your actual FAQs here. So if we jump over into questions and then answers, you're going to be able to go in and update any of the copy that you have here, kind of go through and delete out this copy and customize it. I do believe depending upon your account, you may run into the same issue that I've just had today. Reach out to your account manager. If not, carry on as normal. Anyway, so that kind of covers small talk in its pretty general sense. And as you can see, I've only been talking for about 10 minutes now. Normally we try and keep these live streams between 30 to 45 minutes, but small talk in itself is a fairly basic, well not basic, but a fairly minor feature that just kind of is there to beef out your chatbot's conversations in terms of that initial conversation. So I'm going to use the rest of this time, as I mentioned at the start of the live stream, to kind of go through a few other different minor platform features. So I'm just going to basically be clicking around, kind of discussing things that wouldn't normally pop up or wouldn't normally say warrant an entirely separate and custom live stream feature deep dive. We'll need to chatbot deep dive, sorry. So what I'll do is I'll head over into FAQs again, and we're just going to basically be discussing quite a few different things across the platform. So this is again just a little bit more of a kind of general overview of Ubisend. But here we have tags. So the tagging system, as you can see, this is just my, I believe this is my default law firm account here when I was just having to play around with a few different use cases and a few different ways you could kind of tailor chatbot conversations for a law firm. But as you can see, here we've got two tags, which is about us and our services. If we filter by using tags, essentially, it basically just filters away, so we only see the ones that we have tagged in. So as you can see here, we don't have any FAQs which are tagged both with about us and services, but we do have tags which is just about us, and obviously the same just for services. So a nice way to think of tags is essentially as a sorting and a filtering and a foldering system, kind of all wrapped up into one. You can filter through your different FAQs. It makes it basically the exact same as, say, imagine you had a folder called all of our About Us FAQs. Rather than clicking around trying to find the folder, all you have to do is just search About Us, and then you can see here. And obviously as well, we also have the option to create a tag, as you can see, which is just what once you start typing in the top here, you can either pick from a pre-made tag, or you can kind of go in and you can then you can actually create your own tag. So I think what we'll do is we'll create our own tag and we'll assign it to one of our conversations here. So with the tags, as you can see, we've got some default FAQs already in, and I believe here we've got an example FAQ called seeker claim, which are basically, as I mentioned, this is law firm, so it's kind of to do with a different legal process that. And this is just tagged as services. But what I might want to do is actually add a little bit more of a specific tag to that. So what we're going to do is we're going to edit the tag. So we'll just click that little edit button there on the right. And here we've got the name of the tag, which is the CICA claim, maybe SICA, maybe you just pronounce CICA. I'm not too sure on the correct pronunciation of that. If you do have any notice, just let me know in the comments. But also as well, and then here we've got tags and it is services. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a specific tag, which is going to be SICA or CICA. So I feel like I'm definitely pronouncing that wrong every time I say SICA. But yep, and then all we have to do here is just click create. And after a little second, we're going to have added our new tag, which is now going to be assigned into that into this specific FAQ. So now you can see it's got both tags. So if I wanted to filter, I can filter just down to this one specific FAQ, or I can also filter to see which one has also services and SICA, and obviously as well I can remove that tag and see all of the different ones with services. So this kind of covers adding tags to to different FAQs. Now tags are not only present for FAQs on the UBSend platform, they are also present across conversations. So if I head over into the conversation builder, as you can see, we've got the same tag section here on the right. At the moment, I haven't actually gone through and assigned any tags to these because these are all predominantly the default conversations that come through. But as you can see here, we also have these two different conversations at the bottom here. I think what we can do is we can head in and we can edit the info of these steps of this conversation, and we can go through and we can kind of create the exact same tag again. So we can kind of hit SICA. And then we're going to be able to go through and add tags to the conversations, and they work in the exact same way as if I was using the FAQs. So I can easily go up here and just filter down depending upon the tags, and then this is only going to show me the ones with the specific FAQs, with the specific tag, I should say, sorry. So this kind of covers pretty much the tags in general. This applies not only just to FAQs, it also applies to conversations, and as well as the different files that you have within the UBSend platform. So within UBSend you can upload PDFs, ebooks, documents, website information, all of this in, and different images as well, or GIFs. You can upload all of this into the platform, and then you'll just assign it all as separate tags, so you can kind of keep this streamlined and maintain filtering across the whole platform. Okay, so that kind of covers the majority of tags, I believe. As I mentioned, just going to go through a few of the more minor features on this episode, so it's going to feel a little bit like we're kind of running through things very quickly. If you do have any questions and you're watching on demand, feel free just to throw down the question in the comments about any of the features. We'll be able to get back to you. If a lot of people are asking questions about one of the features that I brush up on today, we'll go through and do a little bit more of an in-depth deep dive on that specific feature later on. But yep, so as you can see here, we've also got the broadcast. We've got with Engage. I don't believe we need to look at, we'll spend a little bit of time looking at notifications. So a chatbot notification is essentially a social media. It works very much in the same way as a social media notification. If I just head over onto here, as you can see here, we've got this little bell icon in the top, just here next to the cog, and next to the cog and the X, I believe my remote control mouse is just starting to run out of battery. But yep, with this basically when you have a notification, this little bell lights up and it has a little 1 or 2 next to it, depending on how little icon essentially showing that you have a notification. And this is kind of a great way to make sure that all your chatbot subscribers kind of receive a little update from you without kind of having to force it into the conversation. So you basically just go click create notification. Notifications themselves, we try to keep them quite brief just in terms of making it really easy for the users, but a really nice example of using it is a flash sale. And then obviously I'm not an amazing when it comes to writing the copy here, so you might have better examples, so this isn't going to be the best copy, but here we've got flash sale 50% off, starts in 3 hours. And you just go ahead and just put in your link, so something like ubsend.com/flash. Oh, I can't type at all because I'm trying to talk and type at the same time, and I can never do that. But yeah, you just go through and create ubsend.com/sale, then click create, and whenever anyone logs into your chatbot platform, they're going to be able to see that they have this specific notification going on. Now, this notification itself just appears here up in the top right. So this is quite a nice way to kind of just basically be talking to your users and kind of provide a little bit more information, and you make the chatbot platform a little bit more, say, like a knowledge base, and users can turn to it for up-to-date information. And now notifications as well, great way of, say, pre-warning. Maybe if you've got website issues, or you say undergoing regular maintenance or something like that, you can always use the notification center for that. Now I'm just going to delete this notification quickly out of here because this is my law firm demo, and obviously I don't want to be polluting that up with different kinds of weird notifications. But one thing that I want to talk about is something which is kind of, I'd say, this brother or sister to the notification, and that is the broadcast. So broadcast essentially works in a slightly different way to a notification, but they fulfill somewhat similar purposes. So bear with me whilst I just have a quick sip of my drink. With a notification, that basically appears in the top right here, and the user has to click on it. Whereas with a broadcast message, that's sent to every single one of your users as if it was a chatbot message. So imagine I'm here, I've just asked the chatbot how they are, and then we sent a broadcast message. The chatbot would send another message, which is the broadcast. So if I just go through, it becomes a little bit easier to understand once I've typed it out. So we're going to use the same example, which is the flash sale, and we're going to say flash sale starting now, exclamation mark, and we'll go ahead and then just kind of, I don't know, we'll also add maybe a little action message, and we'll add a URL, and it's view, I don't know, I never know how to type and come up with examples, view deals, and here we'll just go ahead and add a little link. Flash, God, I cannot type at all, flash hyphen sale. So basically this message will be sent as a normal chatbot message, and this is a great way if you do ever say have particular flash sales or something that you really need to broadcast to your users directly at that moment in time, just so that they can all be like, oh okay, it's a little bit more obvious than a notification. Notification is a little bit more subtle, still noticeable, but hides itself away on the top, whereas a broadcast message actually appears within the chatbot conversation. So they serve somewhat similar purposes, but they, as it goes, I'd say save broadcasts to maybe more urgent or more time pressing matters, keep notifications for kind of a little bit of a news function. Now with broadcasts as well, obviously you don't have to kind of be completely prepared to schedule it at the exact moment. You can basically head into broadcast now, untick this, and you're then going to be able to go through and actually schedule a specific date for the broadcast message to go out. So this is great if you kind of say, obviously at the moment we're heading towards the end of October when I'm recording this video. That means we've got Black Friday coming up, and we've also got the Christmas sales coming up. This is a great way to kind of schedule all of your different promotional activities that you know you've got planned for that. You can schedule them in as broadcast messages and then basically sit back and relax and know that your chatbot's going to be able to carry them out for you, which is really nice. So that's kind of broadcasts and notifications. They serve a similar purpose, but ever so slightly different, and they can work really well in tandem together. Imagine I still have that notification set up for the flash sale. A user comes in, they see that the flash sale is happening in 3 days, they check back within 3 days, and they'll receive a broadcast message just letting them know exactly how to get there. And the same goes in reverse as well. So it's quite a nice little way to be able to engage a bit more with your users. Okay, so that's kind of covering broadcast notifications. I believe the next thing that I'm actually going to dive in and start talking a little bit about is going to be the different kind of analysing. I believe we're saving analysing for a little bit more of an actual specific feature deep dive that we have planned, because we're bringing out a new conversation builder in the feature. So although at the moment I had originally planned to dive into the analyze section, I think I'm actually just going to miss this out just a little bit today, because I think we're going to be touching on this in a future deep dive. If you do want to find out a little bit more about that, make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you know what's coming up, and you'll receive a notification whenever one of these videos do go live, depending upon your notification settings, that is. So what we're actually going to do next is we're going to jump into the settings section, and we're going to dive into the block list. So it is I think a inevitability of human life that there will always be someone that tries to break a chatbot, or tries to swear at a chatbot, or tries to swear at a live chat agent in some cases as well. So whenever this happens, how do you want your user to be how do you want your chatbot to react to explicit messages, offensive messages, anything along those lines? Well, that's kind of comes into the block list. So as you can see, how your block should react if a user starts sending an explicit message. So you kind of have a few options here. You have ignore, function as normal, and then redact. So let's kind of run through ignore. Well, ignore says what it does on the tin. It ignores the ignores the user. If a user sends an offensive message to your chatbot, it's just not going to send a reply. If you click function as normal, that means that not only is when the user actually sends an offensive message, your chatbot's going to try and understand it and try and give a reply. So it kind of comes into personal preference of how you use these two, whether you want the chatbot to completely ignore offensive messages, or whether you want it to try and figure out what the user is actually requesting. From my personal experience and looking at a lot of different chatbots, when a user is sending explicit messages, they don't normally need a response for the chatbot. They're either just typically trolling, just trying to get a silly response out of the chatbot, or trying to break a chatbot, which is obviously something that happens. Is a user will deliberately send nonsensical messages to try and actually get the chatbot not to work. Never really understood what they get out of that, but people have got a lot of time on their hands. So yeah, there's that, and also as well. But I think a reason why you might want so for me personally, I'd normally leave this as ignore, which is the default on the platform, but I'd understand you might want it to function as normal if, say, you're depending upon your target market and also depending upon your brand. If you have a brand which is, say, maybe a little bit out there, a little bit more on the kind of little bit more on the edgy side of branding, you might actually want this kind of like slightly, and your users are likely to use the old explicit message, then you can always put it down as function as normal. Redact. So redact essentially means that when within the platform, if you're ever analyzing the conversations, as you can see, this is why I came onto this after I originally thought I was going to talk about analyzing. But yeah, so if you're ever analyzing different chatbot conversations, you'll be able to go through and see the entire conversation history. So you'll be able to see every single message that was sent. You might not want your employees or yourself at the business having to see any explicit messages that did get sent. So by putting the redact option, you're still going to be able to analyze this conversation, but the chatbot is essentially within the platform is going to block out any of the naughty words that were used essentially. So this will just come up with a little line saying words were redacted. And so it's a nice way just to make sure that no one's having to read any obscenities or any rude language when they don't particularly have to. So these are the kind of options that you have available within the block list. And this is just a great way to kind of gives you a little bit more control of the conversation for the inevitable time that maybe one person out of every kind of 5,000 gets a little bit angry in their life and just decides to take it out and swear at your chatbot for a little while. Another thing that we won't go and discuss through here is compliance. So again, we will be touching on compliance in a future deep dive video as a wider part of team management and GDPR within the platform. But just a little brief run through of what compliance covers. Basically, this is basically a little bit part of your GDPR. So this is so when a user's spoken to your chatbot, how long do you want to retain that information for? Well, it's completely up to you. We let you kind of just basically choose entirely how long the information is stored. By default, as you can see, a subscriber, so an end user of your chatbot, we're going to delete their data 100 days after their last chatbot interaction. You can completely change this. You can make it 103, you can make it 5,000 and 50,020 if you wanted to, and you can do it after their first interaction or their last interaction. So this could be the first time they ever spoke to the chatbot or the last time. And conversation logs, so this is slightly different. So that's the subscriber is actually having all of their information deleted off the platform entirely, like the person never existed. Whereas the conversation logs is just any specific conversations that they had. So you might imagine you have a chatbot which is dealing with tens of thousands of different conversations every week. You're probably not going to want to need absolutely every single one of those conversations saved indefinitely, which is why we include the conversations log. So you can kind of delete conversations after a set period of time. So you can say, let's go along the lines of we'll delete it roughly a month after each conversation's done. That gives you enough time to go in and analyze. As I mentioned, this is typical with the UBSend platform. It's entirely flexible and it's entirely up to you, whatever your workplace practices are and however you normally kind of treat your customer and user data. Okay, so that kind of covers the majority there. We're not going to be touching on files or fallback because they are parts of future deep dives that we have planned. And obviously tags as well. This is kind of what we discussed earlier on in the video. This is kind of where you can come and actually monitor all of your tags and kind of see them all in one large area. So this is actually a bit like the kind of the tag central hub. So as you can see, these are the different FAQ tags that we have, also along with the different conversation tags. And as well, if I've been using this platform for any kind of customer service live chat or ticket raising elements, this is also where you'll be able to add your ticket tags and see them all kind of here. And obviously as well, with any tag, you can go and edit the name if you decided that you didn't like it being called services and you just want it to be called service, or you noticed a typo or whatever. If you do edit the name of a tag, you're not going to then have to dive back in and reassign it to everything it was already assigned for. It will just kind of do that automatically here. It just basically changes the name, not where the tag's been assigned. Okay. And I believe that's going to kind of cover pretty much the majority of the smaller areas of the platform. Everything else is kind of worthy of its own feature deep dive. And I will just very briefly discuss the documentation in the platform. So with UbiSend, my voice completely went as I tried to repress hiccuping for some reason. It's I don't know why, I just had my first hiccup for a while. But anyway, documentation. So the UbiSend platform, we know from an example of kind of having this chatbot platform for quite a while now and having a big range of users. Some people are very much self-starters. They love to get into the platform and just figure everything out for themselves and make their own exciting conversations. Other people, they kind of prefer a little bit of advice or a little bit of help. So then maybe their account manager or their partnership manager is going to be able to guide them through in a little bit more depth. But for the people that are a little bit more self-starters, that's where the documentation section of the platform comes in. Every single feature in the platform is documented in its absolutely entirety here. So as you can see, if I head into the knowledge, as you can see where we have this knowledge area, this covers absolutely every single feature and every single thing that you can do within the knowledge area of the platform, such as exporting FAQs, and it's basically a list of how to do absolutely everything, complete with different screenshots of where to find things within the platform. These are updated pretty much whenever a feature changes, so this is always going to be updated. And as well as say just typical how-tos, we also have tutorials here. So the tutorial section is always growing because there's so much you can do. So always make sure you come and check back there if you haven't looked in it at a while. But for example, here we've got a tutorial on how to hide your chat widget on specific pages. And again, as we mentioned, complete with screenshots of the platforms that you basically can just follow along. What I'd like to do is I'd like to just right click and duplicate this tab. And then I'm going to be able to have the documentation up on one side, and then I'm also going to have the actual how to do it and where I'll be doing it on this side, and I can just flick back between the two, which is quite a nice way of doing things. Also as well, within the documentation section here, we've got this little help button as you can see on the right. This is where you kind of get taken to the support bot. This is where you can kind of submit a bug, request help, or suggest a feature. So this is just, again, kind of just another way of reaching out to UbiSend if you're using the platform. Submitting, basically, it kind of, all you have to do is basically click these options and follow the prompts from the chatbot. It's going to be able to take all the necessary information that you need. For example, if I go and suggest a feature, I'll then be able to kind of go through and type away my new feature idea, and then this is going to come through into our developers. And basically the way that UbiSend works is every 2 weeks or so, our developers review all the different features that we've had suggested, rank them in terms of priority and in terms of popularity, and then they go ahead and start building them. And that's why the UbiSend is kind of basically updated on a regular 2-weekly interval at the moment. Sometimes it's a bit more like a month, depending upon the size of the features, but we try and make sure that the platform's being updated with the newest and the best stuff every single possible moment that we can. Okay, so this kind of covers the majority of the slightly more smaller elements of the platform that aren't going to be talked about in full-on feature deep dives. Some of them will be discussed and kind of touched on as we talk about other areas, but in the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed this feature deep dive. Make sure you subscribe to the channel to be notified of when we go live with any other feature deep dives, because it's a really great way to stay up to date with both UbiSend and chatbot platform technology in general. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you all later.